What happens when you have an ex-entrepreneur, an ex-journalist, and an ex-consultant come together for a few drinks and fries? Well, you have great conversations where everyone takes home something with them. Welcome to Friends, Drinks, and Fries, an unfiltered conversation about nearly all things under the sun. Welcoming you is Harish, Sumit, and me, Rohit. Join us for a fascinating conversation that enlightens others while it enlightens us. Dear listeners, we have a guest today, Vishal Patil. Vishal, we'd like you to give an introduction to yourselves first before we move forward.
Hey, hello guys. Thanks for having me on this podcast. Pretty excited. This is Vishal. I'm the founder and CEO of VendoSmart. We are into B2B manufacturing space. Basically, we are simplifying how custom manufacturing is done, unlike traditional ways, through a tech platform where businesses reach out to us with their CAD designs, and we help them materialize those CAD designs into physical products seamlessly, which otherwise would have been a painful task of finding right type of vendors, dealing with them with sample orders, vetting them, verifying them, getting right type of parts done with sample orders, and then going with the final orders. That results in a lot of iterations and
Mm,
added cost, overheads, and whatnot. So we are cut shorting that and helping businesses save time, cost, and also reduce a number of iterations to take their products to the market faster.
great.
So yeah, that's what we are. Yeah.
Thanks for the introduction, Vishal. Sumit, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I mean, we were just talking just before we started this podcast as to the logic of inviting Vishal. Vishal is also knowledgeable in many fields, apart from his own experience in vast area of mechanical engineering, from robotics to what he's currently doing, custom manufacturing. He's also a very spiritually inclined guy. So काफी फिलोसफी भी आती है इसको, बहुत अच्छे से फिलोसफी बात कर सकता है.
Lovely,
But
lovely.
we were talking about our own, हमारे country में जो landscape है of laws and regulations, and even settled businesses, not maybe big settled businesses, but smaller settled businesses that have been running for years. The
Hmm.
laws and regulations that throttle them, the bribes they have to pay, the running around that they have to do, the compliance burden, the compliance cost, which essentially goes into restricting our global competitiveness. After all of those impose costs on you, and that cost reflects in the final product, whatever you're selling, services, goods. And Vishal here is perfectly placed with 3 years of experience
Yeah.
in running this fledgling company of his, to give his insights on not just laws and regulations, on taxation of startups, but various other things that we can ask
Hmm.
him. We keep talking about what Zomato did and what this and that company
Yeah.
did. You are probably in that ecosystem a lot more plugged in. About this a lot more than us. So starting, since we came to this idea because we were talking about taxation and all of that stuff. What is your experience been with dealing with the government? Has that happened, or is this something that you are likely to come in contact with more going forward?
Um, See, initially when I started with
Hmm.
the idea in mind that I should solve this problem, and as a tech guy, as a manufacturing enthusiast, startup guys usually have passion for solving that problem, right? This reality of documentation, taxation, lawyer, and everything hits in the face. When you move forward and try to get certain things moving. So that happened with me as well. I was like, ये problem है, ये हमने solution build किया, and this is what we do, right? And then various things came popping, and then customer asked, like, what's your GST number? Oh, okay, GST number. So it was all, see, although I worked in corporates, and some basic things I had already taken care, like registering company and this and that. I
Hmm.
thought, I'll approach because I'm into B2B. It is necessary that you have an incorporated company, that you go and talk to businesses. In
Hmm.
B2C, you don't even have to have a registration. You can float an app or do something
Huh.
and get
Huh.
traction and see how things are going, right? And a lot of startup founders already say that you don't even have to have a company to get your idea working. Just go out in the market, test it, and see how market reacts. Everything falls in place. But in B2B, it's not like that. You just can't go enter into somebody's building and say, hey, I'm so and so testing something, let me in. They will not. Okay. So registration and it was all fine, but I thought I knew a lot of things working in corporates, but when it comes to running a startup, taking things in your own hand, right from incorporation, the GST, the return filing and whatnot, there is enormous amount of documentation which I hadn't known earlier, which started sort of eating up into my time of building product or building solution. Then I realized that अगर किसी को स्टार्टअप करना है इंडिया में ना, तो apart from problem solution understanding and field का understanding and all is fine, they have to work on building 3 fronts: CA, CS and lawyer. ये 3 करना ही करना। तो कोई सोचता नहीं इसके बारे में, then realize हाँ यार, मतलब इतने मैंने नेटवर्किंग कर लिया, टेक लोगों के साथ बहुत ब्रो बन गया, बट मेरे कोई सीए फ्रेंड नहीं है, कोई सीएस नहीं है, कोई लॉयर भी नहीं है, राइट? इनकी जरूरत बहुत पड़ती है, एंड आई थिंक if whoever listening to this thinking of starting up, please focus on getting these 3 friends at least. Otherwise, you will find these solutions. Again, there are startups for this also, right? Your CA, this CA, many startups, okay, but वहां पे भी you will be taken for a ride. वो आपको ये भी कराना है, then you need to do this also, otherwise आपको ये fine लग जाएगा, वो fine लग जाएगा, and you know how it is, right? You go to a big hospital and say कि पेट में दर्द है, and they'll say operation करना पड़ेगा, that kind of a thing, right? So this has been my experience, but luckily, I can say again, not right out of the college, working in industry for a few years actually helps get these networks and references. So I found good guys through my network, and they've been really kind and helpful to guide us, and eventually we onboarded them as consultants and they work with us.
At this point, एक question मेरे दिमाग में ये आया कि मतलब we in the last say 8 years or about 10 years, people say, I mean, government obviously says because it has to sell its stuff, but some people have also said that things have become slightly better. We keep hearing these news pieces about our ease of doing business, ranking going up and all of that. Then there are also many caveats to that also, because it only covers Bombay and Delhi, and does not see the landscape in other smaller cities or other bigger cities also, apart from
Bombay. I mean, just to add to what Sumit is saying, and Vishal, I think आपको तो idea होगा ही, India's real manufacturing heartland is not necessarily say a Mumbai or a Delhi today, right? Yeah. It will be a Pune, it will be a अपना ये Trichy, it will be Hosur,
a lot of tier 2,
ये Bangalore के आसपास का cluster, things like that.
Correct.
What is the experience there probably would be very different from what you would experience in Delhi and Mumbai any given day.
Right.
But so, you were in Bangalore incorporating it. I just want to understand, did you have CA or CS or any other people you approached, or even in your own ecosystem, say कि अच्छा तुमको अभी इसमें इतना time लग रहा है या इतना frustrate हो रहे हो, you should have done it 5 years earlier, it was so much worse. Was that something that you heard, or did you hear हमेशा से ऐसा ही रहा है, it is not improving, it has been the same?
No, I heard that feedback from both CA, also CS, and even banking guys for that matter. I think digitalization has helped these people a lot. Okay. काफी documentation, e-verification, Aadhaar-based verification, a lot of this thing has actually helped speed up these processes. Registration of company हो गया, some kind of verification of directors हो गया, and all of that has become much easier. And they did mention कि यार पहले ये काफी difficult हुआ करता था, and it is a lot easier now. But also there are other feedbacks that I've heard specifically from CS that compliance भी काफी strict है, थोड़ा सा इधर उधर, and then inquiry बैठ जाती है and all of that, right? So I think it is ought to happen when there are digital checks everywhere, I think. But yeah, that feedback I've heard, and I think we were lucky that we got the good people to do that for us, and also maybe the timing was right. Okay.
What about I mean, as an MSME, in terms of getting contracts? I mean, we usually hear that it's either an Adani, Ambani, or Reliance, offshoot company, which generally gets all the contracts, or they are capable of getting all the contracts with contacts. But in this current climate, I mean, with digitization and with promotion of MSMEs, do you see a difference that a tier 2, tier 3 company, a new one for that matter, with experienced people? I mean, startups are either with experienced people or without. But with your experience, are they approaching you, or I mean, are they more welcoming in the sense that at least you get a meeting with them to present your proposal?
Yeah, right. Essentially, this is the problem we started off solving. I personally faced this problem being in the industry, that the industry itself is pretty fragmented. When I say fragmented, I'm talking about custom manufacturing. Okay. Standard items, it is pretty much cataloged by companies like India Mart and Moglix and all of that. Like when you want to buy standard catalog items, find traders and all, it is pretty simple. But when it comes to custom manufacturing, where you approach a certain vendor to manufacture something according to your design, it is not as easy as it seems. And that's how we started. We thought we will start with indexing these vendors based on their process capabilities, their expertise, not just on the product. Because a manufacturer who has a certain manufacturing capability can produce different kind of products with that process, not just one product. Right. So that's how it started. Coming back to that question, whether we get that kind of attention from MSMEs and all, yes, we do. We definitely do. That MSMEs are keen on getting identified for their actual expertise, which is I think is a bit complex for them also to somehow do that, right? So they approach some online platforms to list them. So online platform ask them simple questions, sir आप क्या बनाते हो, अच्छा ये बताओ, ये form fill करके दे दो and आपका profile बना देंगे, right? But that alone doesn't help. These manufacturers want right type of customer to approach. ठीक है, अब some guy says कि we are into welding and all, हम welding करते हैं, but welding in itself is such a vast area. उसमें कोई underwater welding करता है, कोई laser welding करता है, कोई कुछ और welding करता है, TIG करता है, MIG करता है, so on and so forth, right? But because of this, welding करते हैं, so it is so generally cataloged in a lot of lead gen websites. So सारे welding वाले उनको phone करते हैं, अरे नहीं हम वो नहीं करते, हम ये करते हैं, वो नहीं करते हैं, right? So when I went and talked to them about the idea that I will index based on the kind of work you do, and we are building some intelligence that when a different business is looking for a solution, they write about the solution that they need. They will not look for a keyword. They'll say this is what they want to get manufactured. Now, based on that, we dissect and we figure out what process this guy needs, and we recommend that process to those people, right? So this idea actually got a lot of attention from these MSMEs, and they were instantly ready to partner with us. And they said, they found that we are doing something impactful. They knew that this is what they needed, but somehow I think they either couldn't convey it to the existing players, or maybe they couldn't find somebody, but they said, हाँ यही चाहिए हमें और आप बहुत सही कर रहे हो. And instantly, despite COVID, even during the lockdown, I think we got around 200 plus organic reach out.
Oh, wow.
People wanted to register with us, but we had a problem of verification. So our policy is that we personally want to vet and verify all of these vendors, so that we bring their information into our database, so that we apply that intelligence, right? We couldn't do that for a long time because of lockdowns and all. So only in 2021 April we started going out, meeting these vendors. So now, maybe close to 350 or 400 vendors. So we have a separate team which does the vendor verification now.
Oh, lovely.
Which we are also digitalizing, by the way, which takes us back to that question, how this ease of doing business. Now we are able to verify businesses through their GST numbers, calling the API from the GST portal and seeing what company is this and stuff like that.
When you say all these people are showing interest in you, does that mean MSMEs are not reluctant to adopt digital methods of business? Because MSMEs कई बार कुछ तो नए होंगे, I'm sure, run by new blood, but a lot of them are legacy businesses or very small, have not used digital means to that extent, are they reluctant to try something else कि जैसा चल रहा है, जहाँ supply आ रहा है, जहाँ जा रहा है, ठीक है, we don't care, new world might be happening around us, but we are happy where we are. What is the sense on that front?
Yeah, that problem is there, but I would call it that it's a second layer of the problem. Okay, they're not reluctant to do something new to get new business. Okay, we have to understand this very clearly. I've seen people generalize this problem a lot in India कि यार MSME बहुत reluctant है, कुछ नहीं करते हैं. No, अगर धंधा मिल रहा है ना, they are ready to do anything new that you propose. Okay, वहां तक ठीक है. But if you put a cockpit level of complex software in front of them कि यार तुम्हें ये सब भरना है, वो करना है, ये करना है, धंधा है, बोले यार ये सब नहीं करना है. मैं अभी एक बंदे को 25,000 रुपए दिया था, देख उसके इंक्वायरीज आते हैं SMS पे. You understand? So that is okay. You don't have to like scare them with too much complexity. Okay. Which is what we learned eventually, right? I mean, we also were trying to frame them in that judgment, saying that अरे ये reluctant होते हैं, करते नहीं है, but we started listening to them कि यार मतलब आपकी भलाई के लिए हो रहा है, but आपको क्या प्रॉब्लम? अरे सर आप ये भी करना पड़ता है, वो भी करना पड़ता है, ये बटन करना पड़ता है, इतना टाइम नहीं है, हम काम कर रहे हैं. So MSMEs, understand, these are smaller companies जहाँ पे owner ही शायद is running around in the shop floor, and also managing customer and all of that, right? Now you can't ask them कि ये सारा फॉर्म भरो डेली भर के बैठ के, या फिर ये करो वो करो, ये सब नहीं हो. So that is where we are leveraging tech to sort of automate all of this and actually help them do more than what they're already doing, not slow them down with the burden of software on them. Okay. So initially what we did is we assigned some vendor success managers, which is what we call them. We assigned them so that they work along with them to understand, what are they doing, and then slowly put that knowledge into our digital platform, simplified. But that, yes, to answer that question, reluctance is there if you put a complex technological cockpit in front of them. Otherwise, I don't see.
Yeah, I like the approach.
They are using Instagram, they are using Facebook, they are doing a lot of things. Some people even use ITR websites and all of that, right?
Yeah, I like the idea, Vishal. I mean, I remember this acronym, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And this is exactly what you're actually doing for them, and that I really appreciate. Now, since you mentioned this and the fact that you're working so closely with the MSME sector, and I'm sure you're also seeing the positives that are these days for the MSME sector at large, and also the bugbears that continue to persist for them, include even you being an MSME, it's something that you also face. So, I mean, is there something in particular, say, in terms of day-to-day operations that really sort of like riles people up, or like it's seen as a big frustration and nuisance? There are things like that happen that you say, ye simplify kyun nahi ho sakta in terms of, say, not just even compliance, I would say even just basic things with respect to some kind of, ekdam se kuch aa gaya out of the blue, government ki taraf se kuch taxation ko leke, या फिर कोई आपका सेफ्टी को लेके मेजर है जिसको लेके मतलब which is absolutely probably not even specific to many companies, but जबरदस्ती it's holding on, I would say. उस तरह की प्रॉब्लम्स कुछ जो आपने देखी हैं on the site for people and you were like, why is this even there? ऐसा कोई मोमेंट हुआ?
At times हमें लगा कि ई-वे बिल थोड़ा सा वैसे करता है प्रॉब्लम, but I think it is also necessary for tracking shipment and all of that. Sometimes it takes time और थोड़ा बहुत mismatch हो जाता है, गाड़ी नंबर कुछ और डल जाता है, कुछ और हो जाता है, and then that becomes a problem. तो कि ये I don't know, ये थोड़ा सा ग्रे एरिया में होता है कि ट्रांसपोर्टर अपना डिटेल दे देता है और बोलता है कि आप ई-वे बिल बना लो, फिर किसी एमएसएमई को लगता है कि अरे ट्रांसपोर्टर ने बना लेना चाहिए था, अब वो क्योंकि बोलता कुछ और गाड़ी कुछ और भेज देता है. सो हमारे काफी शिपमेंट्स डिले हो जाते हैं उसके चलते कि अरे सर ई-वे बिल चेंज कर रहे हैं हम, तो हम पूछते हैं ई-वे बिल क्यों चेंज कर रहे हैं, गाड़ी दूसरी आ गई, अच्छा सो आई डोंट नो, आई मीन ये जेन्युइन प्रॉब्लम भी हो सकता है, बट हाँ मतलब डे टू डे में मतलब compliance wise या regulatory इतने ज्यादा problems हमने नहीं देखी है. Maybe each company has their own problems internally, their bookkeeping, their CA, their filing, वो सारी हो सकती है. But when it comes to business, I think if they keep their books clean, इतना ज्यादा problem नहीं है. Otherwise, e-way bill is one that we have seen यहाँ पे थोड़ा बहुत hiccups हमें हुआ है.
किसी MSME से you've had business with or interacted has really blasted GST कि ये बकवास सिस्टम है और इससे हमारा बिजनेस 50% डाउन हो गया है और बिल्कुल हटा लेना चाहिए, because we keep hearing this. And obviously the positive side of it also, the rising revenue collection, all of that.
I mean, it's a very big mixed bag from my own interactions with people in the MSME space. Disclosure, I live in Noida, which is quite a big MSME hub अपने में. So in the sense, मतलब my interaction has been that हाँ, मतलब there are positives, complaints भी हैं, but they are very happy. चलो एक ही जगह सब निपट जाता भी है. That is half of their like headache done. कि पहले 25 फॉर्म अलग से भरने थे, अब एक ही बार ये सारा हो जाता है, ऑनलाइन हो जाता है. So I mean, what has been that way? I mean, आपको क्या लगा है उन सब?
I think ये मेरा भी view है. I mean, along with all the MSMEs that I've heard a similar thing. The tax rates ही बहुत ज़्यादा है, right? Because of which we are unable to compete with other Southeast Asian manufacturing hubs. Okay. I have many such examples जहाँ पे हम US customers को कुछ चीजें जब propose करते हैं, when we give out the quotation, usually Chinese companies bag orders when they compare pricing to India, right? And we tried working on it really hard, keeping all our costs down. एकदम margin भी बहुत thin रख के भी, we are not able to do it. And we spoke to some experts in this, who basically have been at a very bigger position in international trade and all. And we also got the same feedback that, see, when you add your utility bills, your taxation, your transportation cost, transport per tax, all of that, no matter your actual goods cost, हो सकता है चाइना से कम ही किया होगा आप लोगों ने, but when it comes to actual selling point, आपकी सारी चीजें add होके the final price is high, so that the other countries back that order. Maybe because a lot of that is subsidized by the state in the other countries, which I have not studied in depth. कि वहाँ पे
बहुत अच्छा point आपने raise किया विशाल. A question just from it. You mentioned utilities cost. Could you just sort of break it down and give us not exact numbers, but like a percentage of what it would cost the final product का cost में उसका क्या share रहता होगा in terms of that? And I mean, of course, I understand that, for instance, the power tariff is significantly high for the industry commercial space.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how does it, what is the kind of, I would say reduction that you think would make India competitive, say Indian products competitive in that case with the Chinese? Not even Chinese, I would say Southeast Asian. Let's just go for Southeast Asian.
Yeah. Hard to say exact number होगा कितना, but in my between 8 to 10% पूरे utility आपका rent, बिजली, पानी, all of that, सब कुछ इतना contribute definitely करता है. And what I understood, even from my visits to China sometime in the past, a lot of that is subsidized. बिजली free है काफी जगहों पे, वहाँ पे जिस चीज को SEZ वगैरह कहते हैं. Export hubs जो चाइना में, वहाँ पे बिजली free है इन लोगों को, right? और tax भी उनको काफी कम pay करना पड़ता है, like 5% or so, right? Again, I'm not an expert, but this is what
we understand that, Vishal. We just trying to understand that because I mean, I've tracked the power sector as well for a while, and I realized that cross subsidization of tariff is a genuine problem in India. कि वो residential और agriculture का कम रख के फिर वो industry से cross, मतलब basically होता है कि वहां से recover कर लें किसी तरह, and that has resulted in exorbitant rates at the plant level. जो मतलब
in the last podcast that we had, we were discussing about how GST is breaking a manufacturing into modulars. I mean, modular, each component of let's say a car is broken down into bits and pieces. So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, our example on that was the electric vehicle. An electric vehicle without battery has a certain tax, the battery has a certain tax. So what are your thoughts on the GST making it even more modular in terms of each time there is a iteration? In terms of manufacturing, I mean, how does it impact you, or what are your thoughts?
The various rates that you also just said, no, that there are so many rates, so many types of rates. Does that break does that make us less competitive because somebody is not incentivized to make the whole thing, make it part wise, because that attracts less tax? Is that something that has happened?
No. I mean, I personally have no such experience कि इसको units में बना. I think it only applies to when you import things. Okay, when you import a whole vehicle, it attracts a lot of tax as compared to you importing parts of it, right? When I don't think वो GST में उसका कुछ वो है. It's something to do with import tax, I suppose. But I have experienced that when you buy a vehicle as a whole, even take golf cart for example. If you buy golf cart as it is treated as a particular vehicle, and vehicle has like I don't know close to 100% or something like that taxes, right? But when you buy chassis alone, when you buy seats or battery pack separately, but battery pack also is pretty highly regulated, right? You need BIS certifications and this and that, right? But yeah, I think it's more of import related benefit as an ease of bringing those units and then assembling them here. GST, I don't know. Maybe I have not heard. My knowledge is limited there. That if that is also helping somewhere.
No, I'm not about GST. I'm talking about whether you, in terms of manufacturing, does a taxation system that goes into nuts and bolts make your life easier or more difficult?
I mean in terms of invoicing, जैसे कि example के तौर पे suppose you are manufacturing something that has 4 components. अब हर component का एक अपना GST rate अलग हो जाता है और final product का भी एक अलग होता है. तो I mean I'm sure it is a bit of a what my understanding is genuinely like थोड़ा सा scary scenario लगता है लोगों को कि इतने सारे tax rates हमें समझने पड़ रहे हैं एक साथ.
Paneer butter masala joke was going on. So similar.
There was a joke ना पनीर का अलग, मसाला का अलग, बटर का अलग और पनीर मसाला अलग का चौथा. So that kind of scenario that's going on these days.
So those 3 friends that I talked about in the beginning, those come to the same year. So yes. Because I've seen that book, that HSN code and all that. I tried to go through that to figure out initially, but मेरे बस की बात नहीं थी. And क्योंकि बहुत सारी चीजें ना ऐसी कुछ चीजें ऐसी ग्रे एरिया में है कि हमारे फील्ड के लिए जो मैं फिगर आउट ही नहीं कर पा रहा था. For example, there was a particular thing that we were building for customers. So now, if you see, technically, it is nothing but a box which has got it's a food container, okay? But customer calls it a robot because it prepares food on its own. But अब उसको फूड कंटेनर में जाओगे टैक्स अलग होगा, रोबोट बोलोगे तो 28% होगा. तो मैंने कहा यार ये I don't want to get into this. आप हो लॉयर हो, प्लीज आप ये फिगर आउट करके हमें बता दो, कल को कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं होना चाहिए, राइट? So yeah, I mean है अपने challenges हैं, but I think it is better done by experts.
And I mean, do you see the the GST system being responsive to these gray area concerns and like I mean जैसे अगर आप कोई क्वेरी रेज करें उनके साथ एज अ कंपनी कि इसका क्या है, डू यू सी देम रिस्पोंडिंग पॉजिटिवली ट्राइंग टू एड्रेस योर इश्यूज, या फिर मतलब इज इट अ स्टोन वॉल ऑफ सॉर्ट्स और समथिंग ऐसा कुछ?
No, I have no such experience. Yeah. I have no experience.
I thought at the company level I was thinking.
But वहाँ पे भी I think people leverage. There is a section called others. So I have seen CA also after a lot of head scratching. सर इसको others में डाल दो.
वो it's an equivalent to your system is not working, switch off कर दो, right?
I don't know, मतलब वो genuine है या पता या उसी के लिए
बनाया है. I get that. I mean honestly, and I think this is what one problem that I think Vishal has sort of brought out, and I would like to sort of also get thoughts from Harish, you, Vishal, and Sumit as well. The way the economies globally are transforming, the way the business activities have started to change at a pace that most of us were not even anticipating, right? So taxation systems are eventually driven by knowledge and awareness, to be honest, if we look at it from a more philosophical point of view. Kahin na kahin, the fact that we are trying to go with an others category is sort of an acknowledgement कि बहुत चीजें अभी भी हमारे शायद समझ के पूरी तरह बाहर हैं. So let's just deal with it right now कि वो होगा, but it leaves the door open कि कल को अगर मुझे कुछ change करना है, right? वो एक uncertainty create करके रखता है, I guess for the
isn't that the leeway? Isn't that the attraction for
अभी के लिए इस पे करेंगे, बाद में देखेंगे इसको टाइप्स. वो mentally एक वो चीज को छोड़ देता है, I would say. I mean, is that, do you think that's how it's, I mean, probably the way I see it? कि जैसे क्रिप्टो पे हुआ था, क्रिप्टो पे since we are taxing it because we can. That kind of a statement is a very weird statement, honestly. But I know for a fact, since 2017, the government was trying to see कि crypto का क्या कर सकते हैं. The only reason why it was not trying to, even encourage any form of crypto trading was because the simple answer was उनको समझ ही नहीं आता क्या होता है.
Hey, India on crypto, I mean, Modi ji has been giving speeches. Now the tone has changed that we all should come together and reach a consensus. अकेले कुछ करने की, I mean, there's no bravery in left in India.
I mean, that also
take
sort
it
of
on.
is an indicator, right? That the government still doesn't know what to do with it. They've not been able to make up their mind on it.
The digital rupee or the crypto. I mean, the Indian government, I feel, is not brave enough to just, take a dive. Because
अरे brave enough तब होती है जब किसी की जान खानी होती है, छोड़ दो.
मेरा टेक ये है कि टैक्सेशन सिस्टम आई डोंट थिंक अमेरिका में भी जो इतना बिजनेस फ्रेंडली है और जहाँ साला वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमी है, I only read bits and pieces about it कि वहाँ भी टैक्सेशन से लोग परेशान रहते हैं. 401k you hear about it in sitcoms and all of that stuff. That is personal income tax. But even business wise, it's not very simple, very easy. There are a lot of these loopholes and other kind of categories there also. So to look at a taxation system in a static framework is probably not right. We should look at whether it has gone from bad to somewhat better over a course of 5 years, 10 years, 15 years or not. Are we going on that trajectory? If yes, then you would obviously, there'll always be problems, there'll always be things people will complain about. Has it improved? So my first question to Vishal was exactly that, whether people are saying that the system, ease of doing business and everything else is now better than 5 years ago, 10 years ago. There are still problems. Nobody can probably, at least in taxation, maybe other regulation can achieve that 100% complaint free, landscape. But as much as long as it's dynamic and it's improving, it's a trajectory which is improving. Again, we can have quibbles about कि साला बहुत तेज improve नहीं कर रहा है. This is too slow. It should have been much faster. It should not be taking so long to do this.
For a change, I'll also play devil's advocate and say कई बार अगर ज़्यादा जल्दी change करने लगे तो लोग बोलते हैं इतना जल्दी क्यों change कर रहे हैं. वो भी एक problem हो जाता है अपने में कहीं.
यार certainty कहाँ है यार, तुम खराब law ही बनाओ, but at least हमको पता तो रहे कि इस law से हमको ये होने वाला है. तुम कल को ये बोलते हो, आज ये बोलते हो, परसों ये बोलते हो, तो उससे तो uncertainty आता है. So taxation, I think historically and in future till there is a Armageddon and we all die, will always face these problems. As long as we keep improving the current system, I think we should be happy with it. Pace of improvement will always be a matter of debate. We can always debate it. But just to go back to what Rohit asked Vishal कि हमारे यूटिलिटी का कितना परसेंटेज कॉस्ट होता है जब हम बनाते हैं as compared to ये. I just wanted to just same question in a different way कि अगर just name 2 areas जहां पे कि अगर हम cost कम कर दें, say utility is, as you said, about 8 to 10% of the input cost. Apart from utility, 1 or 2 areas जहां पे कि अगर हम cost कम कर दें तो will certainly become, if not be able to beat Chinese, but become really, really competitive. Utility and anything else, any other area, maybe fuel cost, maybe
connectivity. I think fuel is part of that. I would just put it under one umbrella called connectivity. Okay. Whether it is road, rail, all of that. I think a lot of work has been done already, right? The Udan scheme and all of that, right? But we still feel that last mile deliveries, connections. I mean, if you see a lot of private people playing around in those areas, right? Like truck aggregators and these small transport vehicle all of that. They are there because there was a problem, and also along with that, the type of roads, the connectivity, how shorter path, highways, all of that also matters a lot. So that directly adds to your transportation cost. And with soaring fuel prices, that definitely is not a good area that we start reducing. I mean, we have no control, right? The fuel prices have hiked it. So everything, it's a domino effect. That is definitely there, along with electricity and rents and all. Rents are also pretty high. Industrial areas especially.
And I don't know why. I mean, since you mentioned about the time taken to say deliver something, In your own case, I mean, what is the average delivery time? And if you were to look at comparable situations, say in Southeast Asia, China, any like such an economy from East Asia or Southeast Asia, what would be the average delivery time in that case? Since you've also seen other places, आपने experience किया, what is the difference? I mean, if you could probably.
No, I don't think I have an idea of tier 2 level visibility of Southeast Asian, industrial sectors. I'm talking about tier 2 cities, even say tier 3 cities now, where we are now looking at working. We are talking to even industries in Belgaum and Hubli and all of these places, right? So there definitely is a good talent, good industrial clusters. So now connectivity from there also is challenging, right? Type of roads, or where they are, and all of that. So let's say if they have to ship something, there is definitely 24 hours gap, because they have to the transporter has to basically aggregate all the goods in that area, because volume wise they'll see that it doesn't make any sense to ship out a separate vehicle for that, right? So that thing is there, or they have to send a separate vehicle to collect the material, so they have to usually wait. So that kind of thing happens in either remote industrial areas, or so we are calling it remote only because of connectivity, right? Otherwise remote क्या चीज है?
नहीं, हुबली धारवाड़ तो किसी एंगल से रिमोट नहीं है, I agree.
हाँ, तो but होता ऐसे ही है कि वहां से थोड़ा connectivity वगैरह.
And this is and another thing that really strikes me, and I think Vishal would probably also agree on this. Karnataka doesn't even have a port. It's so weird. Export hub बना रहे हैं Karnataka में. Karnataka doesn't have a port in. I mean, state में कोई port ही नहीं है. There's no major port in the state, which is so weird. And those state in interest, there isn't. They've never there's never one been built there. So if you have to transport if you have to export something, either you have to come down to Kerala, right? If I'm not mistaken, or you have to go up Maharashtra, Mumbai.
Maharashtra.
Yeah. What about Bangalore port? Is that not a functional port?
I mean, it's not big enough apparently for handling volumes. जो मुझे समझ आया अभी तक. Because I was talking to some people who had been associated with the मतलब जो government में, I would say जो ministry concerned थी उसके साथ involved थे in some capacity as a consultant. तो उन्होंने बताया था that there were these rankings released by Niti Aayog about infrastructure connectivity. उसमें गुजरात, महाराष्ट्र, हमेशा या तमिलनाडु टॉप पे होता था. And I asked him, why is this that Karnataka doesn't have it? Because I know for a fact Karnataka is putting a lot of money to upgrade industrial infrastructure. But apparently it turned out that port ranking की वजह से सारे problem हुआ था उसका. Karnataka इतना नीचे आया.
इतना vast coastline है उनका there.
हाँ, exactly. So these kind of issues also, I guess, Vishal, I mean, that must be adding to your time and cost both, right? अगर आप export orders लेते हैं, for instance.
Not so much. Again, हमारा volume इतना भी नहीं है export. We did 1 or 2 orders for US, but they were pretty small. So we used air to ship them on. We are heavily focused on domestic right now. So our aim is to make SMEs compliant to deal with global demand basically. So we are putting a lot of effort in. You can say that we are using this time to kind of get seasoned and get trained, so that when we jump, we make it right for the first. We don't want to go out in the US market or Europe market and do a bad marketing by providing subpar quality products or anything like that.
And MSMEs जैसे जो हैं आप बता रहे थे जिनसे आप interact करते हैं, I'm sure they're very price sensitive as well. So how do you try to address some of those challenges अपने end पे?
Price sensitive. Well, it is good and bad both. Okay. So MSMEs. In a way, I see that in manufacturing, basically the investment has a tier system. So basically, your vendors are your investors in a way.
Yeah.
But that is because there is a long credit period. Nobody pays upfront. So investors, see, your vendors are basically getting that raw material, converting that into some product and shipping it to you and waiting for 60 days, 90 days. So probably that's another problem. GST, how it's connected to GST is for every invoice that you raise, you have to pay your GSTs upfront, right? I mean, where it is due. But usually the vendors in the current industrial scenario either receive payment much later after they paid GST, or they are too late that sometimes they even have to write off their bad invoices, right? Which is close to 4 to 5% of the invoices. A lot of MSMEs write off. delayed payment is a huge problem in manufacturing. Okay, and that is one problem which we are addressing through digitalization of the document trail. Because a lot of disputes are कि मैंने ये बताया था आपने ये क्यों कर दिया, requirement में ये था आपने ये क्यों भेज दिया, quality ठीक नहीं है, मैंने तो ऐसा वाला color मांगा था. A lot of such things, right? So these communications are lost somewhere. Either phone पे भेजा था, WhatsApp पे भेजा था, email पे don't know. You can't even find because this MSME is dealing with 50 such customers, different projects. कब किसने बोला था क्या पता नहीं. They're like ठीक है यार ये करके दे दो, at least पैसा release हो जाएगा, right?
Yeah.
So our system, what it does is right from the first conversation with the vendor, everything is tracked with timestamp. Okay, you can pretty much track every conversation. And those conversations are intelligently built into RFQs and RFPs to match along with their deliveries, right?
Okay.
So delayed payment is a huge problem. So when you say price sensitive, in a way that kind of gets compensated because of these either delays in payments. So that's how I see it. Whether or not they're price sensitive, they try to be price sensitive.
I mean, delay in payments के बारे में, if I remember correctly, government orders पे बहुत ज़्यादा delay अभी भी चल रहा है in terms of timely release of payments. So does that sort of also hurt the sentiment? I would ask, especially क्योंकि government कहती है that we will be, मतलब government eventually is one of the biggest how to say customers that everybody would like to target, right? And government openly कहती है कि हम MSMEs को promote करना चाहते हैं. They put up these gem portal like situations. उसके बाद भी अगर ये हो रहा है, so does it sort of like dampen the मतलब the appetite to work with the government कहीं ना कहीं for these people, for the MSME sector?
I'm sorry to say this, but I think MSMEs were prepared mentally कि government से तो होता है, चलो ठीक है यार. But what's the problem with this big enterprise which has good name in the market? ये क्यों नहीं पैसा देता है? Right?
True.
So
true.
as a situation, and even we, okay, I think the responsibility lies with both sides of the coin. Okay, we categorize this problem mainly into, I would say, three different boxes. Culture issue within a company, systemic issue. The third one could be, it's bit of regulatory, but I wouldn't call it regulatory, but it could be behavioral issue of certain companies because of how they have been operating for several times. So when I say systemic, what I mean systemic is certain organizations have certain documentation process. That is what they follow, right? That's the system. हमने यही बोला गया, and this is what we do. So when we go and say कि यार ये vendor ऐसा इसने किया and they have supplied everything fine, उनका क्यों payment नहीं हो रहा है? So their approach would be, no, see, there is a process in our company. So this is the order in which we make payment, and that vendor is somewhere in the line of 200. So उसका number बाद में आएगा, even if he has done everything right. That is systemic issue, right? अब वो कुछ कर नहीं सकते because the paying company, they say we have a budget, right? Now the company has a certain cash flow issue, and they say this is the budget we are given to pay to our vendors. Now we list those vendors based on their they prioritize based on the criticality of that vendor who is supplying.
That's penalizing timely payments. No, I mean that's very surprising. Timely delivery तो फिर तो गलत है.
No, that's what I was saying. No, when we do I was in the construction field, so a project with L&T or Shapurji, when you invoice them for the work, this thing is sustainability and environment, so it is in the back burner. It is not a concrete or a steel delivery. So ये काम करते रहेंगे, invoice भेजते रहेंगे, and their procurement team is like, see, once you raise an invoice with L&T or Shapurji, think of it like a fixed deposit. कब release होगा ये, कब mature होके release होगा ये पता नहीं होगा, but you will get it. One day you will get it.
Hey, but Harish, this is, I mean, and Vishal, I mean, I feel it's very unfair because आपको तो disincentivize किया ना timely delivery देने.
No, you see, if you're a small company, you want to put it on your website. You're working with L&T or Shapurji or
so that is your customer acquisition cost.
So what generally happens is with these companies, our invoices are low. With other companies, our invoices are kept high, so that it balances out. We have to pay salaries, you have to pay all the taxes, and like what Vishal said, remember, I used to say that we need to pay taxes for invoices which are generated in advance, even though the payment has not come. And that is one of the systems which I still find very offensive. That no, in the
नहीं
era
है.
in the era of digitization, you have all our bank details at your fingertips. I mean, yes, invoice is raised, but have we received the money? Can be checked. It's not that we want to evade tax, or we don't want to pay the government. We will pay, but हाथ में पैसे होने चाहिए. And I have one quick question. In terms of these MSMEs, what is the treatment of the banks? I mean, how good are the banks in giving loans and follow-ups? I mean, are they really mean, or
again, not a personal experience, but I
mean,
did
general,
hear from
yeah.
मतलब what do you hear from the
हाँ.
मतलब अपने client side पे कभी आपने सुना होगा कुछ
कॉम्प्लेक्स तो
experience?
बहुत है, that's what I hear, कि इतना इजीली मिलता नहीं है, राइट? बहुत सारे डॉक्यूमेंटेशन अभी भी मांगते हैं, 10 साल का टर्नओवर लेके आओ, ये कर वो कर. And it looks like only those who have been making a lot of money get more money. For banks, that's a profitable deal, right? That's what they will do. And for new MSMEs who are passionate, who want to do something, उनको कुछ चाहिए. Although हम बाहर बहुत कुछ सुनते हैं कि हम ऐसे lending company, हम वैसे lending company, हम ये कर देंगे, वो कर देंगे. But the moment they get into this whole process of getting something, वो कहीं और ही चला जाता है matter.
It's a discouraging process.
Yeah.
The process is
सर आपको
discouraging.
5 ही लाख मिलेगा, आपको 2 ही लाख मिलेगा. ऐसे टाइप वो शुरू हो जाता है फिर. So वहाँ पे government schemes that I've heard, there are some MSME loan schemes, which I only heard that during COVID they were paid out pretty fast. Okay. After that, again, I've not heard those things being followed. COVID में कुछ MSMEs that we were trying to do those, the what do you call, COVID related supplies. We were trying to injection molding ke through, we were trying to produce some parts, and we helped a few MSMEs apply for loans because they were making those what do you call that, a connector for oxygen generator or something like that, right? So ऐसा कुछ था, and that is where we heard कि 48 hours में कुछ लोगों को पैसे मिले थे, लोन मिले थे. Those who were doing PPE kits, some plastic parts connected to COVID essential supplies. उसके बाद तो मैंने नहीं सुना है किसी को 48 hours में instantly लोन मिल गया. Maybe my reach is limited, I don't know, but that was the only instance of time where I heard that 48 hours में loans वगैरह मिले थे.
अच्छा, इसको broad base करते हैं question को. जैसे I asked, if you've heard मतलब that things are better now than 5 years ago, at least in taxation, GST. Is there an area, an aspect of running a business, especially MSME, which has gone worse? Have you heard from, say, what it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago? It has actually deteriorated. Even supply of power wise, infrastructure wise, regulation tax पे तुमने बात कर ही लिया, but something that has gone worse, that has not attracted the attention of many people. I mean, we all hear things improving.
हाँ, मतलब सब open, सब मतलब बोल देते हैं कि सब खराब है, but what exactly is खराब? This, I mean,
or what exactly has gone खराबर? Has anything gone worse than what it was? Improvement तो खैर चलो हम दिख रहा है, numbers दिखा देते हैं, ये कर देते हैं. You also said कि हाँ, सबने बोला है कि भाई इस registration regulation में faster है digitalization की वजह से. Anything that has that you've heard that has gone worse, become worse?
No, I've not heard any such thing. पहले बहुत अच्छा था, अब खराब. But maybe in not so good way that यार पहले कुछ कोई पूछता नहीं था, अभी बहुत stringent हो गया. वो उनके लिए खराबर है. पहले तो हम बोल देते थे सीए को कि कुछ ऐसे बैक कैलकुलेट करके इतना टैक्स के लिए कुछ कर दो टाइप. तो वो अब नहीं रहा है. एवरीथिंग हैज टू बी.
अब पकड़ में आ जाता है कि अगर आपने गलत बोला है तो तुरंत पकड़ में आ जाता है और फाइन लगा देंगे और पेनल्टी लगा देंगे और ये वो कर देंगे.
करेक्ट. अभी तो फेक इनवॉइसिंग वगैरह वो सब भी बस्ट हो रहे हैं. सो देयर इज नो स्कोप फॉर दैट. खराबर तो आई हैव नॉट हर्ड कि anything has gone worse.
Is it possible that a lot of people who were stringent नहीं था, पकड़ते नहीं थे, enforcement तगड़ा नहीं था, because it required manpower to catch people, and now because of digitalization a lot of things are centralized.
It's become easier for sure.
System पकड़ लेता है. you don't need that amount of manpower, and you can still catch a lot of people just because of reading their trajectory, business trends, things they're importing, exporting, invoicing, all of that. So will that have made a lot of these businesses which were surviving not because of their core business but because of doing this tax evasion cry foul about new systems and maybe create an impression?
Yeah,
possible, right?
Yeah, possible. That's what I said. I've only heard it from people who are taken aback by this digitalization or making the system stringent. अरे यार बहुत headache हो गया इन सब चीजों की वजह से.
So headache नहीं because कि हमको बहुत कुछ देना पड़ रहा है, हमारा बहुत time जा रहा है, but ये we could just get by doing this, now we can't.
हाँ, now we can't, exactly. So that was the sentiment there. I could read it. That's what they were trying to say कि यार पहले हमारे हाथ में था, right? Like खाता बुक टाइप कुछ होता था, उसमें लिख लो and एक बुक बाहर के लिए एक बुक अंदर, वैसे टाइप चलता था सब कुछ. अब वो नहीं कर पाते हैं.
Okay. Vishal, another question that I had, two questions rather. One, what is your take on the larger manufacturing landscape in India? I mean, since you've been there 3 years and you've also worked in areas that were sort of like having a demand from the manufacturing sector as well to an extent. Have you seen, I mean, larger landscape, do you see an increase in the manufacturing base in India?
Absolutely.
From your experience, is it, I mean, and what are the drivers behind it? Abhi in immediate sense, and what will be the drivers behind it, say in the next 3 to 5 years for you? I mean, आप क्या देखते हो इसके बारे में?
इसी में मैं ऐड करता हूँ एक और चीज कि लास्ट ईयर जो हमारा फिस्कल था उसमें we've done record exports, $400 billion plus. Now that is still like 2% of global exports. China would probably be, I don't know, 10 times, 20 times higher than us. Yeah. So we don't even, we are not even a blip on the map, so to say.
Yeah.
लेकिन हमारा जो 330 बिलियन के आसपास चलता था वो 400 पहुंच गया, तो हम अपने हिसाब से हम आगे बढ़ गए हैं थोड़ा और बेस्ट एवर हो गया है. And a large part of that is that has come from manufacturing. Not a large part textile ka bhi hai usme.
There have been growths, highest growths were from the manufacturing space.
Yeah, some of the manufacturing space is registered. So ek to did you actually, so these are all just numbers and government press releases that we hear, people who are not connected with it. You are directly in the middle of this manufacturing ecosystem. Did you see this export growth coming? Did you see it happening while it was in that year when
even domestic level? Do you witness this like growth in manufacturing base?
And what could you attribute it to? अगर तुमको मतलब readily 3-4 reasons हो जो कि suddenly मतलब we went from 330 to 400.
Okay, maybe I'm my view of this whole thing could be limited because there are stalwarts leading this whole thing in manufacturing, and they would know a lot about it. But when it comes to my
experience, whatever you perceived, whatever you saw,
आप जो देख रहे हो आप उसी के बारे में बात कर सकते
हैं. Yeah. So I think I'll answer Sumit's question first. So ये जो increase हुआ है, that actually happened post COVID, okay, and that I think because of what happened in China. So China outrightly was manufacturing hub of the world. Like US में, I've spoken with a lot of customers in US and Europe also. They're like, कुछ भी कराना है China से कराओ, and then so they were treated like manufacturing kitchen of the world. That's it, right? So post COVID in immediately it hit to the whole world. यार contingency कुछ plan कर लेना चाहिए, right? And that is where people started looking at India and rest of the Southeast Asia. I think. See, Bangladesh benefited a lot. Bangladesh, Vietnam, and all. So their trades have. You should see how Bangladesh has performed. Yeah. Especially in textile and all, right? Bangladesh and Vietnam.
But Bangladesh को लोग बोल रहे हैं कि वही, as you said, textile है तो one trick pony है. उसका textile is actually blowing all the numbers up. So it's not. So the base is not wide.
I agree though with Vishal on the example of Vietnam. Vietnam is a very diversified.
Vietnam has done really well.
And I mean, it's very, very impressive.
Yeah.
And it's driven nearly entirely by the MSME space there, from what I've understood over there.
And he's saying that we've all benefited not because we did something extraordinarily well, but because people were pulling out of China. So China's loss has been our gain. We didn't do something. Or Vietnam didn't do something.
But incidentally, there was something good happening. Incidentally, it's not that COVID हो गया और India में आ गए कि यार सब कुछ ठीक हो गया. नहीं, I think whether it was foresight or what, I think government very just keep playing this digitalization game, and I think that played out really, really well when COVID, post COVID. I think one, GST definitely helped. So what happens is when you reduce the whole taxation pipelines to one, it basically makes the whole system frictionless. That motion is smoother, right?
Yeah.
That is one. And we are the second fastest growing internet country in the whole world after Indonesia. I think Indonesia is the fastest, world's first fastest internet, and second largest after China. Despite all this, 64-65% of MSMEs are still offline, by the way, in India. Okay. Despite all of these numbers. And I think COVID also flicked those numbers by multiple levels. Okay, people started adopting remote work and remote verification. अब नहीं लोग देखना चाहते थे कि वेंडर कहाँ पे, उसका फैक्ट्री कैसा है, राइट? अच्छा, आपके पास जीएसटी है क्या, आपका ये रजिस्ट्रेशन है क्या, आपका ये है वो है, एमएसएमई सर्टिफिकेट है, ये ले लो ऑर्डर, right? So I think this also helped a lot. So see, I'm a guy who like roams around in the field, meets MSMEs. This is what I have seen. Okay, so reforms वगैरह definitely flowing down to the tail end, and it is helping MSMEs. But had we not had this layer of GST, digitalization, ease of doing business, and all of that, COVID हो भी गया रहता तो फिर we would have been in a much worse situation.
Okay, so they came together perfectly at one time. Timing
exactly, which is what that's what I have perceived, come to perceive based on the facts and figures on the field. But
what about
बहुत कुछ है अभी.
So what about talent wise? I mean, is
so that's the other question which Rohit asked. I was going to come to that part also. So the factors that add to this is definitely the engineering workforce that we have. Okay, and I have seen first-hand experience dealing with Chinese suppliers also sometime in my career. Our cost of labor is also much lesser even compared to China. Okay? And the number of engineers, technicians we have, resource also for that matter, raw material and all of that. See, that was one of the questions that always bothered me. We have abundant amount of raw material resource. We have abundant amount of engineers and technicians. We have land, we have whatnot. Why are we still not being called as manufacturing hub of the world? And that is which is what I want to do, and that is how I started this whole stuff. Here we will, put all the manufacturers of India on a map and say this is the entire capacity of India. Now the world should use this capacity and start leveraging this. So definitely talent comes in handy, and I think to some extent English-speaking talent is what I would call is competitive. But of course, Philippines is catching up pretty well now. I think a lot of IT services jobs are moving.
Disclosure: I have a relative by marriage who heads a center in Cebu in Philippines, BPO center, ITS center. So I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. So talent definitely adds to it, especially English speaking talent and engineering talent, I would say. मुझे नहीं लगता इतने engineers कोई और country, even Southeast Asia में, या हमारे जितने इंजीनियर्स पास आउट होते हैं किसी कॉलेज से उतने तो किसी 4-5 साउथ ईस्ट एशियन कंट्री का पॉपुलेशन होगा, राइट? इंजीनियर निकलते हैं हर साल हमारे यहाँ. So that is there definitely. So now the other question that you had, like 4-5 years down the line, I think next 15 years, in my opinion, again it could be driven by my wish and hope also, that next 15 years are going to be the best years in manufacturing. So in late 90s and early 2000s, I would say was boom of IT and everything which India reaped and enjoyed is going to be for manufacturing in the next 10-15 years. So that's going to be what IT did in late 90s and early 2000s to India.
Well, let me ask you a more question. How much percentage of MSME in manufacturing is headed by women? Why women are not there? Yeah, it is a relevant.
That's a good question. Actually, that's a very good question. That's a very good question. I agree. I mean, I'm curious to know because I've heard only anecdotes basically, but my feeling is that
my reason for asking this question is generally this question comes into validity only when there is a reason for power. For example, why there is no woman PM or a woman president or a woman army general or a woman chef or things like that. When it comes to the dirty work now, and it's like electrical infrastructure, remote areas, high risk jobs or high focus areas, there's no question about women coming in. I mean, no
So
women.
you already
No,
know
no.
that there are no women. You just want validation from Vishal that there are no women running MSMEs.
I'm telling you,
You're a
I'm-
radical feminist. Burn
I-
your
I-
bra.
No,
No,
I
that's-
want this women empowerment to. Maybe it is because they don't know this exists, or there is they don't know.
Maybe that's a good question. Actually, I actually agree. This is a very good question.
I mean, you have.
Have you interacted with women who are heading MSME enterprises? That
not many, but yes. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think they were second generation, so
that's
daughters or some. But you know,
that's good, no? That's
to
I
answer
think that's a great
Harish's,
thing.
yeah, of course. But to answer
Like he'll
Harish's
say
question,
No,
no, it is a good thing. It's
I
definitely
feel,
a good thing.
matlab,
Yeah.
I actually think it's a good thing. I mean,
To answer Harish's question, I think it's not a fair question to ask here why women are heading. ऐसा मुझे नहीं लगता it should again be asked in that divisive way कि यार why women, why men, why women. ऐसा नहीं है. There are a lot of sectors. So these jobs, like you also touched that point partially, that electrician हो गया. See, there are people who run lathe machines for 12, 14 hours and then they go home, eat and sleep and then come back and they run the machine. They have to stand in front of the machine continuously and run that for 12 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a hard labor, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's okay for women not to choose a job, but if there are certain things which men can't do.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying that. My question is, see, there are women mechanical engineers or mechatronics engineers coming out of the colleges in India. As far as I know, apart from civil electronics and computer science. My question is, why the manufacturing field is not attractive enough for these passing out mechanical
so manufacturing, when you say manufacturing, that's a huge space, So you take manufacturing of I don't know, something that involves very intricate work, which is led by women. By the way, a lot of electronics stuff is done. I have seen a lot of electronics manufacturing setups where the entire workshop was full of women, who are doing handling of these tiny electronic components. They're soldering them. And those are something maybe women are good at doing. I don't know. Okay. I think if I'm not wrong, the entire Ola factory is headed by women.
Future Factory has it's an all-women factory apparently.
Yeah, right. I mean, why it was not like that, I don't know. But is it changing? I think it is changing. So.
I really like that fact that you mentioned that second generation entrepreneurs, specifically in terms of daughters coming forward, because I mean, if you're running it in the family, why not? I mean,
my question is, see, women leaders will employ more women just so that they are more comfortable, provided they're experienced as well. That was my question. It was not it was a pointy question. Yes.
No, there are a good mix of men and women on assembly lines. I have seen a lot of automotive assembly lines.
That's great to know. That's actually great to know because, and I mean, now that you're mentioning and you were talking about, in the manufacturing decade, let's just sort of say, being now there for India, what, I mean, apart from your own space where you work, I mean, are there, and given that you cater to many kinds of customers with respect to like specific requirements, are there any 2 or 3 areas that you see India really making a mark in the manufacturing space in terms of subsectors? Or are there going to be something new, radical and disruptive that you see also coming through with respect to manufacturing that will actually change the way we see manufacturing in India?
And just to add to this, as in, we were discussing earlier that China subsidizes almost everything from bijli to land to pani in their industrial clusters, SEZ of Chinese variety. So given that we can't do, in fact we do the opposite. We load all these costs, the subsidy costs to general public into industrial power supply, for example. uh, and you said we are heading into this decade of manufacturing, so we are going to be doing really well, but still can't compete with China in terms of cost. So who are we going to replace? Other people? How much of Chinese market are we going to eat? And just you can combine this with what Rohit asked, and just tell us what you think on those issues.
Yeah, okay. I think radically कुछ change होगा क्या, मतलब हम कुछ बदल ही देंगे, that I doubt, but क्या कुछ हम streamline कर देंगे? I think that is what I mean. Okay. One is because of reforms, digitalization, even private players, maybe startups like us helping, giving that playing field for MSMEs or other manufacturing, or getting them even discoverability for global demand and all of that. Definitely it sort of combines the demand of the entire country, and it gives that edge, right? So radically, and I also see a lot of companies putting effort in R&D. Okay. PLI is there, of course. PLI and all of those are definitely helping. But apart from that, and a lot of companies in India are heavily, and these probably could be third generation, fourth generation, or maybe well-established companies. Now they are focusing a lot on R&D, whether it could be a battery technology, hydrogen, technology, and whatnot. Those, I think, are sectors and problems that are just a tipping point. If they do really well in those automobile technology, and just one flick away. So we cracked this technology. We are now suddenly moving to hydrogen. We are moving to this battery cell. So there are a lot of work happening on sodium ion batteries, which if done well could be a lot cheaper and safer than lithium ion batteries and stuff like that. So I think there are two things that are happening. One, streamlining and building that firepower of manufacturing, which now the country is getting ready with right type of platforms, digitalization, taxation. Of course, a lot of work has to be done yet, but I'm comparing this with last 15 years or maybe 50 years. Okay, that is happening along with a lot of R&D. Okay. So if these things go well, so one will complement the other, and this is going to work out pretty well, I think. Right.
And I'm very glad you mentioned the R&D point.
Yeah. Sumit's question is, I think, I mean, the whole MSME also thinks that government really has to pay attention, and they have to heed to MSMEs. Do something about the tax. I mean, even I don't know the answer. Experts would know, but somehow the businesses have to look attractive when they're selling the final product. Okay.
True.
Payment problems, again, MSMEs are struggling to solve it. Government is also putting a lot of effort in saying that, okay, they are going to now mandate that MSMEs payments have to be paid on time and all of that. But like I said, it's a problem on both sides of the coin. I didn't talk about the other side of the coin, that not that every vendor is doing their job right. Okay. But these kind of enforcements will also act as a backlash on these businesses working with MSMEs. They'll say, "Oh, don't touch MSMEs, यार, कुछ payment नहीं किया तो उल्टा हमारे ऊपर पड़ जाएगा, जबरदस्ती पैसे भी देने पड़ेंगे और खराब product भी लेना पड़ेगा." Right? It might also happen that way. So it's a tricky area. It is complicated. It's not straightforward. But with, I think, good political resolve, like you also touched that point, कि जल्दी resolve कर दिया, people बोलते हैं कि अरे यार क्या कर रहे हो, कुछ बिना सोच के कुछ भी कर रहे हो, बहुत time ले लिया तो बोलेंगे कि यार क्या सो रहे हो, इसको problem solve नहीं करेंगे. So complicated है. So I don't know how that pans out, but otherwise.
Since you mentioned this part, do you think that the government tries to engage in a feedback loop with respect to the industrial problems? Have you heard of these instances कि किसी ने मतलब feedback लिया कि क्या हो रहा है, कैसे हो रहा है, आपको क्या तकलीफ है? Do you hear about these things?
Yeah. I think, my own personal experience, so the Startup India program. So I'm going to now talk about not MSME, but maybe startup ecosystem.
In fact, I was coming to that. Yeah. So we got you for, we spent a better part of an hour on MSMEs, which was great. I'm sure people who will hear this.
नहीं देखो, I see it as a mutual compliment, because I am personally very happy that you are about what you are doing, because that is in the manufacturing space, and I have a very soft corner for manufacturing generally. कि मुझे लगता है that is something we really need to push in this country. बहुत service
नहीं ज़्यादा difference नहीं है. ज़्यादा difference नहीं. If you scale it 10x, 100x, you are a startup. Otherwise, you are MSME. ठीक है.
Exactly. He's on the sweet point where he doesn't want to be an MSME anymore, but he is an MSME. Yeah, you're talking about Startup India. Let's just get concise points on कि अभी startup कहाँ पे है, how it has this government.
I mean, how's the program running? I mean, in your experience, and क्या हो रहा है आजकल?
Right. So we are a Startup India registered and recognized company. So so we get that certification also. DPIIT certificate. So we are a registered. That was, first thing that I felt okay. So now there is one is of course Prime Minister and rest of the cabinet talking about startup के लिए वो कर रहे हैं. बाकी सारी स्कीम में भी ना मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि हम women empowerment कर रहे हैं, हम वो कर रहे हैं. I'm talking about when I was in school and all. Okay, हम education ये कर रहे हैं, हम वो कर रहे हैं. But मुझे कुछ दिखता ही नहीं था कि हो क्या रहा है. मतलब ठीक है, बहुत कुछ तो हो रहा है. But मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि यार ये शायद ऐसे ही होते हैं, कहीं तो कुछ चलते रहता है, हमें नहीं पता क्या होता रहता है. But so there was a portal where we registered. There was set of process. There was helpline number. I mean, well set up, system to support startup ecosystem. So we got registered. So apparently, government has made a beautiful portal also where you can get in touch with fellow startups.
Get in touch with investors. Startup India portal is.
You can get in touch with mentors.
It's such a breath of fresh air compared to other government sites for sure.
No, and it gets updated very frequently.
Yeah, true. It gets updated very regularly.
Very regularly in terms of number of startups or any FAQs.
It's an amazing site. I agree.
Correct. In my opinion, that is autonomously run incubator for every startup that is coming up in India. So like every startup should just go and register themselves. The first form that you fill to get registered itself is an eye opener. Okay, I'm talking about like budding startups when they are doing that. अरे यार एक डासू idea है, हम solve कर देंगे, ये कर देंगे. वो form fill कर दो, धीरे-धीरे you will come down to the ground. They'll ask कि ये कैसे किया, वो कैसे किया. Describe your startup in 50 words. Problem, solution, target area. तो वो तो हो ही जाता है. उसके बाद you get to meet mentors and different programs. And also when I say incubator, startups also get a lot of benefits when it comes to availing legal services, CA services, or even cloud credits for that matter from Amazon. A lot of such foundation has been laid for startup programs. And I think every state has also adapted this theme and they're running their own programs. So one of which was Karnataka startup program called KTech. We were part of that. So we applied to KTech and we were selected or one of the winners of that program out of I think 1,500 or 2,000 startups that they applied. So they eventually finalized like 105 startups, out of which Vendor Smart was one of them. And so they also provide with grant, that is like money. So they're like, okay, go build your product. Okay, so which we get from government. And not only that, they have a beautiful office in Bangalore. They said they can offer the office co-working space, they can offer mentors. All of that was very encouraging. We felt like okay, because startups are hard. Okay, that's hard grind, and founders definitely need some support system, even if it comes through government, right? But there is somebody to talk to, there is somebody to guide, there is somebody to connect you with something. Those programs are running full on, like on a daily basis we receive a lot of updates. यहाँ पे ये वाला program हो रहा है, apply this, ये करो, वो करो. So I think, yeah, so that
जैसे
that was my personal experience.
जैसे कि you said no कि you would be in school hear about women empowerment. In fact, even now we hear of tens of thousands of government programs which we have no direct connect with. LPG cylinder, only the poorest of the poor get it. You probably will not in your normal course of daily routine will meet those people, or people having tap waters. Those are people, they exist. The numbers are there. They exist, but you only see it in programs. But then we hear stuff about कि कैसे पिछले 10 साल में 500 स्टार्टअप्स हैं, अब 60,000 स्टार्टअप्स हैं. So is that something that is just jugglery, number jugglery, or you've seen these startups sprouting not because only entrepreneurs?
I mean, it's a mix of both, right?
Spirit
Government
aa gaya hai.
initiatives and also a general zeal in the people. I think young
in
people,
the new generation,
अब आप भी young ही हो, है ना?
government
तो
backed
मतलब
programs, and availability of cheap funds, which is now drying up with America going
I think
into
funds एक बात है. Sumit,
हाँ.
I'll also say something interesting that I think Vishal also pointed out. I think digital connectivity.
Yeah.
That also has probably been a big
Yeah.
driver in the way people see the startup space, and I mean it has allowed ideas to run. उनको एक मतलब it's given them some kind of feet to be able to stand up on. Maybe that's also one of the factors.
I think so. So पहले भी जो स्कीम होते थे ना, they were known to people only through network. अरे यार ऐसा वैसा स्कीम है, apply कर दे. I mean those who are connected directly with it. I think now internet and digitalization had democratized it. I mean truly democratized it. कि भाई ये portal है, यहाँ पे ये कर दो, ये apply कर दो, and सब कुछ you are able to follow that through. And I think pre-digitalization ऐसे ही होता था, and only few people used to tell few people who they want to do such things and be done with it. और काफी कुछ पता नहीं नकली भी कुछ होता रहेगा जिसके थ्रू बहुत सारे फंड्स इधर उधर जा रहे हैं.
I just remembered a joke. In India, if you need a scheme or anything, I mean, if you're an IIT, or the success of IIT remains in the marriage sector. That is, if you study in IIT, the prospects are much better. So, how is the prospects for marriage?
On the same note, let me tell you something that I learned when I was first working in Hyderabad, 2008 में, that the check size for the groom depends on वो कहाँ से पढ़ा है. अगर वो डॉक्टर है तो 1 करोड़, अगर वो IIT है तो 50 लाख, अगर वो IAS है तो 30 लाख.
No. On a societal level, I mean, on a societal level, if a mother has to say my son or daughter has started a startup, it directly proportional to the success of getting married.
Yeah.
You see,
But it's very interesting. I remember one colleague of mine.
It's the mothers and aunties.
हमारे एक advisor होते थे एक जगह पे. तो he was an NTPC retired person. Environmental management का ही basically वो head करते थे division अपने time पे. तो his son was doing a startup and he was like, देखो भाई मेरे बेटे ने तो मुझे सीधे सीधे बोल दिया है कि अगर मेरा फेल भी हो गया तो समझना मैंने MBA कर लिया. आपने MBA में जितना खर्चा करना था उतना आपने स्टार्टअप में मेरा कर दिया. स्टार्टअप में मेरा वही खर्चा है. बस आप ऐसे समझ के चलो.
No, the true
on the ground.
network strength of the startup is the aunties and the mothers of India, who takes a relationship from one family to the other, just brave enough to say my relationship, this guy is doing a startup, or this daughter is doing a startup.
But Vishal will confirm, because he has told this to me, and he'll obviously confirm that. Say you were an IT graduate and you had the same idea, you're running the same company, and you approached this VC for funding some and would you think you would be more successful than you are currently? Is
No.
that thought crosses your mind that maybe that has an advantage? Your own personal
कभी back of the mind रहती है बात.
Yeah.
So अच्छा, तुम्हारे अभी तो लेटेस्ट जो अपने स्टार्टअप का थोड़ा सीन बताओ ना, कि नॉट जस्ट यू बट ओवरऑल हमारे स्टार्टअप जिन्होंने IPO ले लिया है, टू स्टार्टअप्स लाइक यू एंड इवन स्मॉलर देन यू, फंडिंग का क्या सीन चल रहा है? what does the future look like, especially with what's going on?
Angel tax. You wanted to discuss about angel tax as well.
These guys probably don't still come into angel tax category, and that has been sorted out by and large. We were discussing it.
But, I mean, generally, how do you see the? I mean, a fund. अब कईयों की तो next round of funding, series funding का time तो आ ही रहा है ना. Significant numbers, I would say, in fact. So what do you think is going to happen from here?
Yeah, winter जो कह रहे हैं, winter in the funding, I think that is true to some extent, but to not all stages. I think pre-seed और seed तो अभी भी हो ही रहे हैं काफी इंडिया में, and इंडिया में I don't think इतना ज्यादा कुछ effect है. Maybe I think large ticket जो अभी series A cross कर चुके हैं उनके लिए I think it is a bit challenging, but I'm sure Indian startups are a different beast altogether when you compare them to US and rest of the world. They'll definitely fight and find a way out of it. India में my personal view जितना मैं पढ़ रहा हूँ तो इतना खराब winter भी नहीं है. Seed pre-seed in stages पे अभी भी काफी funding हो रही है, right? So that is my understanding of the situation.
Your thoughts on Shark Tank India?
So when you were asking about
hey, you have to ask, come on.
I was about to talk
important questions. We missed it, sorry.
You have to keep the listeners entertained.
Correct. When Harish was asking when you go and talk to your mother or your auntie or somebody about startup, I was just trying to say that Shark Tank stole that thunder. Now they're saying here Shark Tank आया, so now people are doing more startups because now they are able to explain कि startup क्या है. Because सबने Shark Tank देख लिया, जैसे कोई सीरीज चल रहा है टीवी पे, ऐसे देख लिया, अच्छा बेटा तुम स्टार्टअप करते हो मतलब वो Shark Tank वाला ऐसे. तो Shark Tank also is now saying कि देखो हम आ गए तो एक्चुअली इंडिया में स्टार्टअप बढ़ गया. तो अभी जो हम पहले
I feel like I sneak over and want to say कि ये सब दोगलापन है भाई. Sorry. But yeah, but I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned that there's a cultural acceptance, and that's something I've also wanted to probably touch upon now that you mention it. This is fascinating because India as a society, I mean, we have a lot of risk takers, but हमारे एक societal level पे एक peer pressure groups ऐसे होते हैं, family groups ऐसे होते हैं, जहाँ पे risk का appetite necessarily इतना high नहीं होता है, and our ability to accept failure in many ways is very, how to say, poor. I'm sure it's gotten better, but अभी भी मतलब वो एक उम्मीद होती है कि सफल होना या successful होना बहुत, it's a very important, critical thing for many people, and many of them treat it as if there's no tomorrow if it doesn't happen. So, I mean, I'm sure some of it you've also experienced it firsthand. So, do you think there's been a change in the last, especially I would say 6 or 7 years, in the way people view this space, and are, how to say, the larger ecosystem, family, peers, is it more accepting and empathetic towards people who are in this space now than it was, say, earlier?
I think it has got nothing to do with time. कि 6 साल, 8 साल, 10 साल, 15 साल पहले के साथ नहीं. This is the reality that failure is as much part as the success is, okay? And everybody will go through that cycle. And like you said, they will treat it as there's no life beyond this, or ye karna hi karna hai types. That approach will not work. Okay, so I remember this quote. I think it was, I don't know whether it was Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali.
Elon Musk.
Hang on. I've not said the quote yet.
Please,
it is
no
that everybody has a strategy till they get punched in the face.
Oh, that was Mike Tyson. Yeah. True.
Yeah, something like that. So,
I love that quote.
मैं ये करूंगा, मैं वो करूंगा, ये करूंगा. When you get into the market and market punches you in the face, right? Right. And then you see now, okay, so मैं ये ऐसा करूंगा, मैं ऐसा करूंगा. Now that effort कि मैं ऐसा करूंगा, वैसा करूंगा, simply driven by ego कि मैं fail नहीं हो सकता यार, मैं कुछ तो करूँ.
True.
But होशियारी उसमें है कि यार अगर आप समझ गए हो ना कि you iterate and extrapolate that equation and see कि ये करने से ये ऐसा होने वाला है. Accept it. Take time. Think. थोड़ा zen बन जाओ and then pivot या do something else. That works much better. Iterate fast. जल्दी fail ही हो जाओ. Right. जल्दी कुछ करो, get feedback, fail, pivot करो, iterate करो, evolve हो जाओ. That works better. So हमारे साथ भी कुछ ऐसे ही हुआ. We started off as कि यार हम प्लेटफॉर्म बना देते हैं, इतना इंटेलिजेंस डाल देंगे कि कोई बोल देगा कि मुझे ये ऐसा वाला एक बॉयलर का नट बनाना है, वेंडर मिल जाएगा, ऐसे ऐसे, राइट? सो like any other startup, we did that mistake of building that platform, and unfortunately COVID was also there, so that I think fueled this whole energy कि यार बाहर जाके भी क्या करना है, बैठ के प्रोडक्ट बनाते हैं. We built that, and जैसे ही अनलॉक वगैरह हुए तो we started demoing it to customer बोले ये सब तो ठीक है. That actually रियल लाइफ में मुझे वो एक सीन है स्वदेश में, इट रिमाइंडेड ऑफ दैट सीन व्हेन शाहरुख खान कम्स टू द विलेज. अब बेटा तुम क्या करते हो? नहीं, मैं ऐसे सैटेलाइट में देख के वो बता देता हूँ बारिश कब होने वाला है. ये तो हमारा सहदेव भी कर देता है. So when we went and demoed to the customer, अरे ये तो हमारा ये जीईटी कर देता है कि कौन से वेंडर बना देगा and all that. तुम बताओ कि तुम पार्ट्स बना के ला सकते हो क्या? अच्छा, so that was the punch in the face. तो what customer is trying to say is कि यार तुमने इंटेलिजेंटली इतना फिगर आउट वगैरह कर दिया है कि ये कहाँ पे है वेंडर, वो सब तो ठीक है, बट मैं उसको दे के फिर भी तो मेरा एक्सपेरिमेंट ही हो रहा है ना. तुम गारंटी लोगे क्या पार्ट सही बन के आएगा सही टाइम पे? तुमने इतना वैलिडेशन अगर किया है तो तुम ही ले लो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. तो दैट साउंडेड नेचुरल टू मी. हाँ यार, मैं इतना बोल रहा हूँ तो मुझे ले ही लेना चाहिए. मतलब इट इज लाइक वो होता है ना ब्रोकर, और वो अंकल होते हैं, ये वाले स्टॉक में पैसा लगा दे तू हो जाएगा. मैं पूछता हूँ तुमने लगाए क्या पैसे, राइट? तो वैसे टाइप ना. तो मैंने कहा हाँ ठीक है सर, बनवा देंगे, उसमें क्या है. तो दैट इज हाउ another business started, which we today call managed services. So where we become single point of contact, and that's how managed services was born. So हमें लगा कि यार अब ये कस्टमर को प्लेटफॉर्म बेच के नहीं फायदा होना, क्योंकि कस्टमर यही पूछने वाला है. प्लेटफॉर्म वगैरह ठीक है यार, क्या बन के आएगा क्या टाइम पे? तुम पैसे ले लो, तुम प्रीमियम ले लो, तुम बना के दे दो. So that's how we started. Now that we are doing that, it led to something else. So we are working on enterprise software now for managing the existing vendors and stuff like that. Right? So that's how it is. कि failure तो होगा ही होगा. Okay, if not 100%, मतलब 99% chances कि यार at least जो आपने सोचा है वो नहीं होगा. But follow the market, listen to customer, follow the money.
I have one question in terms of promoting. I mean, we see all these TikTok videos, Instagram, Facebook, and all where these manufacturers, the Chinese manufacturers or European manufacturers, show their finished product. It'll be two pieces. They make, when they connect it, it becomes a single block. Those kind of promotion happens in India, or there are two questions basically. One is whether those kind of promotions happen, and two, do we have the talent, or is it something that is common in the manufacturing? I mean, such things that we see on at least on.
I have seen that video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a marvelous piece of engineering. Okay.
Yes.
And I'm sure those are definitely Japanese. Those
maybe.
Okay. They have to be Japanese.
Yeah.
हम अभी उस लेवल पे, so think of it like when I said IT services kind of a scenario for manufacturing, we may not be building operating systems, or we may not be building chips or something like in 90s, but we had huge talent of engineers who speak English, who can manage technical conversations, and also probably manage service-based software companies and stuff like that. That is about to happen to manufacturing. That I would say not so R&D driven or not so very specialized stuff, but a large scale manufacturing itself. Okay. That is yet to happen. Imagine, okay, that is yet to happen to India. That is fragmented. That is in clusters. That is happening, and those magics which you're talking about are also happening in India somewhere. Very very remote, very niche, small scale. Some company doing only two parts for some aviation company in Europe, sitting in India. Nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
Large, huge margins. The family-run business. They're happy. They don't want to get highlighted. Whatever, right? It is happening, right? But probably in China or elsewhere, they've all hit their peak. अब तो हमें global जाना है. ठीक है, हमने China भी कर लिया, Japan कर लिया, सब कर लिया. Now we want to show it to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And that kind of precision, or that kind of parts that you're talking about, which particular video which we have all seen कि जोड़ देता है तो एक part which means बहुत ही tight tolerances and all. उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट भी बहुत ही कम होती है, बहुत लिमिटेड इंडस्ट्री में, राइट? So that is like F1 car, F1 वाली car ना, कि it is your show piece, it is
It's a
your
very
engineering
niche
marvel
product for a very niche market. Yeah.
Yeah, that is your
No,
capability exhibit.
it is the height of engineering basically. It is the
Right, that's your capability exhibit.
वही height of
Right,
engineering
that's
भी
your
तो एक limit तक ही
F1 car.
होती है ना. And like I always hear some people, some very interesting people to say publicly कि over engineering की भी अपनी limits होती है हर चीज पे. So maybe it's also a case of over engineering.
What I was asking is one, capability. Two, why is the government promoting, or does the government need to bring in new schemes, or I mean new platforms for promoting such?
No, I think government, in my opinion, मेरा actually थोड़ा इसमें डिफरेंट व्यू है. गवर्नमेंट को इसमें ना इंटरफेयर नहीं करना चाहिए. इवन जो MSME के लिए कुछ उन्होंने पोर्टल वोटल बनाया है, पता नहीं बनाना चाहिए था क्या, मुझे पूछा तो नहीं बनाना चाहिए था शायद. आई थिंक मिस्टर नितिन गडकरी लॉन्च दैट, आई फॉरगॉट द नेम ऑफ द पोर्टल, MSME पोर्टल ऐसा कुछ है. सो दे हैव डिफरेंट सब्सक्रिप्शन फीस फॉर SC, ST, OBC and subscription for general category business owners and stuff like that. ठीक है, I mean one is you support the ecosystem, other is directly get into the business and start doing that platform में connect करा दूंगा, ये करा दूंगा. फिर तो आप कल को बोलोगे कि यार ये ना ऑटोमोटिव कंपनी बहुत स्लो चल रही है, हम गवर्नमेंट का कोई कार ही बना देंगे, अब चलो कार बनाते हैं कल से. आई डोंट थिंक कि इस लेवल तक भी जाना चाहिए कि हम खुद ही अब बिजनेस में उतर के ना वो करने लग जाएंगे, प्लेटफॉर्म ही बना देंगे.
That's a very good example you brought up, Vishal, because it reminds me of what happened in Malaysia with its proton car experiments. कि हम ऑटोमोटिव इंडस्ट्री खड़ी करेंगे, उसके एंसिलरीज को प्रिपेयर करेंगे, तो हम अपनी कार बनाएंगे.
But right now,
proton proved to be a big failure in every sense.
Right now, India is going from a globalization to a protectionism type of economy. Remember, we were speaking about the toys. Toys manufacturing. Where
I mean, it's very complicated. I think it's not just India that's necessarily becoming protectionist, right? I think it's a global thing.
Global event.
And what exactly is protectionism? वो भी अपने में I think कई बारी बहुत मतलब complicated.
It's a vast thing.
I mean, it's not so straightforward. I mean, but I know what you're saying. I get that. वो तो कुछ हद तक हो रहा है, but I mean, the ability to substitute the with the quality inside India.
No, I use the term very loosely, not in its very specific terms, but on a general mood kind of thing that India will do. America has bought its own PLI system, PLI schemes for manufacturing chips as of last week. So since Taiwan is now disputed, so America has started boosting. UK has bought its PLI schemes. Europe तो अपने गैस के पीछे चल रहा है from Russia. So they have no energy. Russia अपना economy खुद चला रहा है. I never understood the Russian economy to begin with. So that's what I'm saying. It's becoming more.
तो promote करना चाहिए क्या? I mean, तो कुछ promote करना चाहिए क्या? हाँ, promote करना चाहिए at policy level, I think, and not beyond that. मेरा ये मानना है. I don't know. I may be wrong. But हम खुद ही platform ही बना देंगे. आ जाओ, register करो, subscription दे दो, ये करो.
How is that different from the Startup India platform where you can register? They are not giving. Is the government giving any business to these guys? कि चलो तुम आ जाओ.
Yeah. Yes.
उद्यम के थ्रू तो शॉर्टलिस्ट कर रहे हैं ना vendors.
That's a lead generation platform, no? That's a lead generation platform.
But these MSMEs are providing to government what they need. They're not making something that they don't need, but they want, for example, cars. They're not going into. Government needs table chairs or whatever not in their offices or other.
It's like this.
वो तो GEM पे हो रहा है.
That is happening in GEM. Yeah, exactly.
I'm talking about a different platform.
This is a different platform.
MSME.
Which MSME platform.
MSME
Mart.
अच्छा, MSME Mart. उद्यम नहीं.
हाँ, MSME Mart.in ऐसा कुछ तो है. I forgot.
Okay.
So that was like a lead gen platform जहाँ पे they take some subscription again, right? तो मेरा ऐसा view है उस पे कि policy level पे ठीक है, and even GEM was actually not done for MSMEs. I would say it was actually done to digitalize government's purchases. जहाँ पे tender में favoritism होता है and all of that, उसको avoid करने के लिए किया है. You might see that as कि it's a portal for MSMEs. ऐसा नहीं है. तो उसमें उसको थोड़ा सा डेमोक्रेटाइज कर दिया।
And GEM was actually a natural corollary in many ways because काफी सारी PSCs जो थी बड़ी वाली CPSCs particularly सबने अपने पोर्टल बना रखे थे इस तरह के. It was bound to happen at some stage.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean that's a fair point. I mean, अब ये government promote करे किस level तक promote करे, I mean it's also sometimes a case of
double-edged sword, no?
overdoing your mandate कहीं ना कहीं जो जिसे मैं बोलूंगा, and किस हद तक interfere कर सकती है किसी भी space में demand creation. I mean, government can create demand by becoming a buyer for sure.
नहीं,
But
policy
should it be
change.
connecting people, buyers
Policies.
to sellers, वो अपने में एक certainly a question है जो कहीं ना कहीं, I mean, it's up for debate in every sense. I would agree.
I think it's another debate altogether that how much government is good government.
हाँ, वो तो हमेशा ही रहती है. Too much government. हाँ. What is too much government? ये भी अपने में एक question तो रहती है.
So.
And एक चीज मेरे को पूछनी थी just out of curiosity. You've interacted with the MSME space, and were they supportive in general with your idea? Were they appreciative? Did they also give you good suggestions? मतलब अच्छा, मतलब did you get like, or were they like, अभी जैसे होता है कई बार लोग बहुत rude भी behave करते हैं कि हमें ये नहीं चाहिए आप please, and I mean did they encourage you basically? Were they encouraging? Because I've heard that MSME space में लोग थोड़ा मतलब fraternity sense बहुत strong है इंडिया की.
But I think they told him no कि यार ये क्या बता रहे हो कि मुझे 5-star इस दुकान से मिलेगा, तुम लेके आओ ना मेरे पास. I don't want
that's one way of saying it, but were they like encouraging कि ये आइडिया अच्छा है लेकिन इसमें ये और कर सकते हैं, ऐसे भी कभी अच्छे फीडबैक मिला आपको MSME से?
Yeah, they were encouraging. They were definitely encouraging. One particular call that I don't forget. So it was a supplier from Gujarat who called me up. He just called, okay? He just called and he introduced that I am so and so supplier from Gujarat. मैं आपके platform पे registered हूँ. So I thought that it was a call regarding. Usually हमें call आते हैं कि कुछ orders हैं क्या, कुछ काम करना है. Like हाँ, मैं थोड़ा बहुत ऐसे expect कर रहा था, but he went on to speak about what he does, how his day goes about, and how he's trying to get more business and stuff like that. And he literally he said कि जो आप कर रहे हो ना ये actually बहुत अच्छा काम है. हमने मतलब इतना इंटरेस्ट लेके सिर्फ कस्टम मैन्युफैक्चरर के ऊपर फोकस करके ऐसे किसी को देखा नहीं जो who is providing this kind of a service, so we really he said, I really appreciate what you're doing. I personally wanted to thank you, and that's why I called. So that was one call that I got. Nice. Apart from talking upfront, तो बोल ही देते हैं कि हाँ यार जो आप कर रहे हो actually मुश्किल तो है, but आप सही कर रहे हो, हमें चाहिए. ये सब vendor की यहाँ से feedback है. Because I see there's a natural this thing an offer that उनको orders मिलेंगे because we're trying to help them to get customers. Maybe they are encouraging कि हाँ जो कर रहे हो सही कर रहे हो, ठीक है. But they were doing it because their business is not straightforward like a telephone or a mouse or a pen or something कि मैं जाके अपना product list कर दूंगा और कल से बिकेगा. ऐसा नहीं है उनका business, right? They are manufacturers. So maybe that is why they were more interested and they are saying कि यार आप बहुत अच्छा कर रहे हो. Actually हम real world में ना ऐसे ही करते हैं. हम जाके किसी को ये नहीं बोलते कि सर मैं ना ऐसा वाला वॉल बनाता हूँ, ये करता हूँ या इसका वेल्डिंग करता हूँ. वो बोलते हैं कि मेरा एक्सपर्टीज क्या है, मैं किसी पार्ट को 4 माइक्रोन के प्रिसीजन पे मशीन करता हूँ, ये मेरा एक्सपर्टीज है. आप उससे डिसाइड करो कि आपको किस टाइप का पार्ट बनाना है आपके एप्लीकेशन के लिए. अगर मैं वो वाला पार्ट ही बोल दूं ना तो शायद आपको लगे अच्छा तुम उस पे करते हो क्या, फिर ये मेरे काम करिए. Which is what we were trying to solve initially, right, through the platform. And that's why they were pretty supportive about it.
That's actually quite interesting because it's also sort of keeping room open for innovation, in fact. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's amazing. Because I don't know, Vishal, if I'm sure you must be aware of कैसे जो PPE kit manufacturing को लेके overnight जो capacity develop हुई थी. Lot of it was actually about people going back and forth on, okay, we can do this, can you do this though? और ये जो ये feedback loop था उसकी वजह से we were able to do it so fast. So this is just, I mean, it's just reminding me of that whole story कि कैसे हो सकता है, and it's fantastic. So
my final question: will you be on Shark Tank?
No.
Okay. नहीं ठीक है, अश्नील ग्रोवर को नहीं सुनना हमें, ये
if you
दोगलापन
are
I think
you don't like
I'm not saying
Shark Tank, or you're too big for Shark Tank?
no, neither. I think we're not so keen on going there. We have a lot of work to do.
Nice.
That's the way to go.
Well said.
Well said.
अगर मेरे पास फंडिंग होती तो मैं सब अभी दे देता यार, इसी
फक्कड़ों से तो दुआएं मिलती है, फंडिंग नहीं मिल सकती
भाई, that will translate into funding one day.
Yeah, of
has
course.
anyone come to you for mentorship? Let me end with that.
Good question. Do you get like requests for mentoring them for new startups, budding entrepreneurs, anything of that sort?
Yeah. I do. I mean, it is again through network of people that we meet in different meetups, startup meetups, and all of that. So again, when I go there, talk to some people, and I say, ऐसा problem हुआ था, so somebody connects, अरे ये ऐसे हुआ था, so they take either my number from somebody that I have come along with or something like that, so they call us and say कि sir हम ऐसे कुछ कर रहे हैं, you mentioned that आपने ऐसा problem face किया था, and then you pivoted, आपके साथ ऐसा हुआ, so can you help us, ऐसे करके. Initially I did that to few startups, but अभी कैसे हो रहा है कि I'm not able to give that much of time to
नहीं, आपको अपना भी तो काम करना ही है
ना. No. What I was is whether the network of startups is good enough, or whether the fraternity is accepting the newcomers.
It is good. Yeah.
That way. I mean.
So I think होता है ना कि those who seek get it. Actually ऐसा नहीं कि आके कहीं पे मतलब हम बैठे हैं कि रजिस्टर करके हमें मेंटरशिप मिल जाए, right?
Correct.
There are a lot of events that are happening. I think you just have to go show up. Okay. Just find an excuse to be somewhere. And दुनिया भी इतनी छोटी है और इतनी वास्ट भी है कि कहीं ना कहीं से कुछ ना कुछ कनेक्ट निकल के उनका नंबर मिल जाएगा, या फिर आप उनको लिख दोगे, वो रिप्लाई कर देंगे, कुछ ना कुछ हो जाएगा.
Such a nice way of saying it. That's such a nice way of saying it. And couldn't find a better way to end this conversation.
Yes.
I know. Thanks, Vishal, for this lovely engagement. बहुत कुछ सीखने को मिला. I'm so glad about that, honestly.
Thank you so much.
It won't be exaggeration to say our best episode ever, probably longest.
Yeah, agree. Totally. मजा आया.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I hope. I mean, at least many of our internal discussions were sorted out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Tax
we were discussing on our own.
Don't worry.
We have somebody to validate that or support what each one of us was saying on our private chats. But same maza hai, Vishal, and I knew you would be a great addition, great guest.
And thank you for giving so much time. In fact, I know बहुत
thank you.
मुश्किल हो जाता है कई बारी, but
no, that's totally okay, and I really enjoyed it.
I'm so amazed.
So many boiler nuts you have to manufacture currently. Abhi jaake sir. Sorry for the manufacturing.
Yeah, thanks to our partners who are good at what they do. So they do their good job well.
Honestly, I mean, I hope your business grows many-fold.
Thank you so much.
मेरे को तो बड़ा अच्छा लगता है when I talk to people who are making all these efforts. Honestly, genuinely.
Great.
क्योंकि मेरा extended family में ये सब मैंने देखा है, and I've seen a lot of failure also in my extended family. So, but I mean, that spirit to try something new, it's really exciting sometimes. I just put it that way.
The thing is that everyone wants to be an Ambani or Adani, but nobody knows the effort that has gone inside.
Exactly.
Or the space there.
जो धक्का खाया होता है, उसी को पता चलता है कि कैसे होता है.
So that is what I mean to the listeners. It would be really to the startups.
As a final parting shot, I remember somebody had shared this WhatsApp जब वो बहुत चलने लगा था कि सब कुछ अंबानी अडानी को बेच देंगे. So there was this joke apparently that one man was complaining कि airline बेच दिया, इसको बेच दिया. तो उसने बोला देख भाई ऐसा है, ये PSU बेच रहे हैं, तू खरीदेगा? तो मैं कैसे खरीद लूं? मैं क्यों खरीदूं? तेरे को नहीं खरीदना, पक्का नहीं खरीदना? पता नहीं खरीदना. अच्छा अगर अंबानी खरीदेगा तो तू बोलियो मत बस. So I mean, yeah.
No, there's a lot of trial and error, effort, failures, success stories.
Hands down. And I mean, a lot of good things to know that are happening. And I now that I've talked to you, I mean, I'm sort of like more positive about the manufacturing space in India. And
I'll share his number with you anytime you're feeling down or feel like
अरे
blushing.
he's such a positive guy यार, इससे बात करते रहना
Exactly.
पड़ेगा हमें.
तो इससे तुम फोन मिला के
इससे बात
बात
करके कितना
करना.
मजा आया.
Exactly. So can we wrap this on,
Yeah.
on this note?
So
On this
that's a wrap from our
positive
side. Thank you,
best
folks.
wishes
Reach
to
out to us on our
Vishal.
Twitter platform @drinksfries, Facebook page
Sure.
by the name Friends Drinks and Fries. Bitchpodcast9@gmail.com is our email for feedback, brickbats, bouquets, whatever you want to send us across. And please like, subscribe, follow this channel. We'll keep engaging more and more interesting people in the weeks to come, and try and touch on as many subjects around the economy, industry, business, etc. So please feel free to subscribe to this.
We'll also tag Vishal on
what's your Twitter handle? We'll tag you on this.
Anybody who listens to this and has something to say,
you can answer them. Hopefully you'll have the time to answer their queries as well.
He would have done with his boiler nut bolt, so he would have
boiler nut ho gaya.
Chalo.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Thanks for having me. It was a great discussion.
We learned so much. I am really obliged.
Different point of views. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Vishal, and hopefully we'll see you soon on this.